Eli, would you like to lead us in the pledge of allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, welcome everybody. A couple quick things to get through and we won't leave you sitting too long, so. Non-public and public meeting minutes from the March 6th, 2025 meeting.
Make a motion to accept the non-public and public minutes from March 6, 2025 as written.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Don, second by Scott to approve the non-public and public meetings of the March 6th, 2025 meeting. Any discussion? Christina?
On the non-public minutes, there was a typo on the, under the 2022, 2023, and 2024 minutes. We've corrected it, so I don't know if you just want to make that as amended. It said, did unseal, we did not unseal, so we fixed the wording in it, but it was not in what was sent out to you, so.
Okay.
Just withdraw the motion and make another one.
Okay. I withdraw that motion and make a motion to accept the minutes from March 6, 2025 as amended, or as corrected, sorry.
Second.
Okay, motion by Don, second by Scott. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
So it's 3 and 2 abstentions.
Yeah.
All right. I would entertain a motion to seal the non-public meeting minutes from tonight's non-public session.
Yeah, I'll second.
It's in your motion, inside the cover of your
Make a
books.
motion
You got it,
to
Scott?
seal the non-public meeting minutes from today, because it is determined that divulgence of this information would likely adversely affect the reputation of any person other than a member of this board.
Second. Motion by Scott, second by Don. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Consent agenda.
Make a motion to accept the consent agenda for 3/20/25 consisting of accounts payable manifest dated 3/12/25, manifest dated 3/18/25, manifest dated 3/20/25, payroll manifest dated 3/13/25, veterans credit mat lot 203-184, amount of $750, transfer of funds, general fund to fire department air compressor in the amount of $601.50, transfer of funds, general fund to the EMS fundraiser fund of $1,196.50, transfer of funds from general fund to police special detail revolving fund of $2,944.09, transfer of funds, general fund to the water department's operating fund in the amount of $176,737.24, general transfer from general fund to sewer department's operating fund of $125,767.58, transferred funds from general fund to ambulance revolving fund in the amount of $311,609.06, resignation from the planning board member by John Miller, and appointment of Scott Severn to the planning board through March 14th, 2028.
Second.
Okay, motion by Don and second by Sean to approve the consent agenda as read. Any discussion, Christina?
Just, he said from the town's general fund to the sewer department's fund, it's opposite.
Oh, that's.
When you read it, I just want to make sure you.
It's correct on there,
Yeah,
though?
it's correct on there, to the
Okay.
general fund from the sewer department's
I'm
operating fund.
sorry,
And then,
it's going too fast.
the only other thing, we did add the manifest number 3, that didn't go out in your materials. It was one invoice that was missed to pay our media manager, so that was
Okay.
added on there after, so.
All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. So, thank you all for coming. We are here to recognize the promotion of Sergeant, now Lieutenant, is it official yet? But Chris Carter, from the rank of Sergeant to Lieutenant. So Chief Bean, do you have?
So I came to you guys, or to the 2 new members that haven't heard. We got rid of the lieutenant's position a couple of years ago, thinking we don't really need it. We can handle within. And all we did was say, here you go, Chris Carter, have all of these duties, and we're not gonna pay you for them or give you the rank. So this year, during the budget process, we talked about bringing that position back and promoting Chris Carter, who has deserved and earned it over the last 2 years. Goes above and beyond all the time with helping out in town, whether it be a different department that needs something internally. He's taken Eli Schaffner, who we promoted to detective, and really worked well with him, and really they've come a long ways with a lot of our investigations. Over the last year, we've handled more indictments through the Grafton County Attorney's Office, which is what primarily the detectives do, than we ever have in the past. Solving a bunch of cases. We had way more reports than we normally would for a lot of felony cases. But as of most recently, we've tracked down some stolen equipment that was stolen from town. We tracked down stolen building materials, which we thought was only a little bit of building materials. As Jeff can attest to, we filled his yard filled with it, because when we got there on a search warrant, it was more than a couple. It was thousands and thousands of dollars worth of roofing material, as well as he's led these guys recently with a drug investigation that ended with an arrest and search warrants where we located a bunch of drugs. Just really gone above and beyond, not only doing the work, but also leading Detective Schaffner and Mike Nordberg, who's one of our patrolmen, who's really worked with them well. So I really felt that he deserved the position. He's done a great job training everybody. So we decided that we were going to promote him to lieutenant. His family's here today after we do the swearing in. His daughters are going to pin him with his new, well, not pin, Velcro him, because one of them is overly excited that in the military a pinning means legit pinning, where you smash the pin on him. When she's experienced that, she would love to do that, so he brought Velcro instead. So we just wanted to make sure that not only has Chris Carr done a great job, but he's done a great job leading the rest of the guys who have done a phenomenal job. And really, there's a couple cases that you could easily ignore some things and not move forward and find, and they went above and beyond. A lot of search warrants were done this last year, a lot of multiple follow-up search warrants, because everybody knows that if it's not perfect, Chris Carr is not going to allow it to go through. So, which is good, because a lot of the younger guys are learning a lot from him. So we'll swear him in. Raymond wasn't able to make it here tonight.
Chris, but before you do that, on behalf of the board, I just a kind of a thank you from us as a board, not only for everything that Lieutenant Bean has said, but also for the help that you've offered in the various other offices in town, particularly when it comes to IT, and kind of stepping up and doing a lot of things that you really don't have to do. That you know are above and beyond your job description, and thank you for your assistance in with the public safety building in particular. I know, hearing from both Chief Bean and from Chief LaRoche that you've been an integral part of that, so we thank you for that. So.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
The current IT guys that are there now are not appreciating it because they messed a couple things up. But the town of Bristol,
I'm sure we'll get him back on
the
track.
town of Bristol appreciates it because he's not letting it go.
Yeah.
All right. Whereas there's a vacancy in the position of lieutenant in the police department in the town of Bristol, and whereas the subscribers have confidence in your ability and integrity to perform the duties of said office, we do hereby appoint you, the said Christopher Carter, as police lieutenant, and upon your taking the oath of office and having this appointment and the certificate of said oath of office recorded by the town clerk, you shall have the powers, perform the duties, and be subject to the liabilities of such office until another person shall be chosen and qualified in your stead. Effective date of appointment is April 6, 2025. Yeah. I don't,
That's a good to read all the rest of it.
yeah.
Yep.
I guess that's it. We'll have his daughters, Kate and Trinity, come up. Which one's doing what?
Give it to him good. He's earned it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There you go, congratulations.
You want to take a couple pictures?
Yeah.
Congratulations. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Long overdue, congratulations.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. They're on the motion. Thank you. Mark them all.
Back there? Yeah.
He's got the camera, so,
Yeah,
would you like-
a picture with the family?
Yeah, let's do it by the flags.
family first?
Yeah, let's have your family come out. Get our ugly bugs out of the way.
You don't need us.
Yeah, exactly. You can be on my, you're not normally allowed to go about it.
Yeah.
That's good. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mike, where's the dog?
Yeah, he said it.
I told him.
Come on.
All right, there you go, perfect. Excellent.
Yeah, we'll take one with that.
You guys do.
You don't need to be.
It's like you tried really hard to.
Absolutely.
Make your way around here.
Thank you all for coming. We won't make you stay for the rest of the.
Unless you want to.
Unless you really want to.
Watching paint dry is more fun.
Yeah, I need to read it off.
I didn't read that second piece.
Thank you, guys.
I think they want to thank you.
Nice job.
Have a good night.
That would probably be preferable.
Does he have a shift, do you have a shift to do now, Chris? Nope, all done. All right, good. There you go.
Oh, it's in.
This is the whole
I've never been to do this.
Oh, I closed it on you.
There we go. Oh, that got lonely real quick.
It's quiet again.
Yeah. Mine are cheaper than the JP I
All right, election of officers. Just chair and vice chair, right?
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
that's all we.
That's the only two officers we have.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm just making sure I wasn't missing anything, so. So I would open up for nominations for elections of officers. So we'll start with chair.
Who wants it? Let's go, jump ball.
Are you willing to serve again? Do you want to do it again?
I'm willing to, I'm leaving it,
Are you tired of it?
100% up to you guys, so. I'm willing to carry on if that's what you want me to do.
Do you want a break?
Huh?
I know, it's always a tough one to
It's,
want to see proceed.
yeah, it's tough, I mean, I have the bandwidth to work on stuff during the day. That's the main benefit to be staying. But, that's it, we have other people that are perfectly capable as well, so, I would leave it up to you guys.
I have no issue with it.
What's that?
I have no issue with it.
With him? All right. I nominate Rob Glassett for chair then.
I'll second.
Second? Okay, so motion by Don, second by Scott, for me to continue as chair. Although, any discussion?
I don't think we need any.
Any discussion from anybody? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So I would open up for vice chair, and I would actually go ahead and nominate Don Milbrand, again as vice chair. That'll be okay with
Quick and
you?
easy to fill in.
I'll second that.
Okay.
You just don't want to have to. You don't want to have to read the consent agenda, that's all.
Is that the job of the vice chair?
Yeah, usually.
If that's okay, all right, or Scott, I don't.
No,
Do you want advice?
no, I'm fine with my bandwidth is fine with just being an
Okay.
appointment.
Yeah, so. Okay, so, all those in favor of, Don Milbrand, did we have a second on that?
Yeah, I see.
You seconded it, so motion by myself, second by, Sean, for, Don to continue as vice chair. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Are we doing committee appointments?
We're gonna do those later on the agenda.
Okay, all right, excellent. All right, asset management presentation and wrap-up meeting.
All the fun on the first meeting.
Well, Christina and I spared us some stuff on this meeting, actually, so.
How are you? I brought some hard plates.
That's all right.
Yeah, you can do, if you want, I'll take the call.
I know it's not written, right? Sometimes the line.
If you got an extra, it's like
Handwritten.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You are welcome. All right. All right. My name is Margaret Blank. I'm with Underwood Engineers. And I prepared an asset management program for your water system in cooperation with Jeff Chartier and staff.
I'm sorry, you just told me
Okay.
to go ahead and I'll do that for you about that.
Perfect, thank you. All right, next one. So this project was funded by a $100,000 ARPA grant provided by the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services. 79,000 of it was for our engineering contract, and 21,000 was for utility locating equipment and other. It's completed by Underwood Engineers in cooperation with the town. Includes horizontal water system assets, which are things like pipes, valves, hydrants, and vertical assets, which are things like a booster pump station, which has multiple components. We also included your lead service line inventory, which is really an inventory of all your service lines. That was actually completed under a separate contract that we had with the state. But we did incorporate it into this AMP. Next. The goals of asset management are basically to understand the condition of water infrastructure, identify and correct current deficiencies, anticipate future needs, Provide a financial basis to estimate the resources that will be needed to maintain and improve the water system. And you're always gonna have to build on the asset management program in the future. It'll never be done. The components of the asset management program, as required by the grant, are a vision statement, which is optional for the water system grant. Lucky for us, the water and sewer department had one handy on their website, so that was easy. Level of service goals, an asset inventory and condition assessment, criticality, which is prioritizing the assets, a financial overview, an implementation plan, and a communication plan. And we'll go over all these components. All right, first one, level of service goals. DES has a very helpful acronym. So the level of service, what you're trying to get at is balancing the service provided with cost. And DES has this helpful acronym to help formulate goals smarter, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-based, and you always have to evaluate and redo on a periodic basis. There's the vision statement. It probably looks familiar. I don't think I need to read it. So just hitting some of the highlights on the level of service goals. Consider a planning grant for a water system build-out study. DES offers planning grants, and the application deadline for that is in the fall. Flush fire hydrants twice per year. Update the rate model every 5 years or as needed. Improve and expand public outreach by updating the website, sending postcards with the water bills, participate in Old Home Day, and consumer confidence reports. And I think probably another goal that will pop up on there is staffing. And that's, a lot of utilities around the state are looking at staffing shortages, so.
So, questions along the way.
Yeah, sure.
So I noticed it said flush the fire hydrants twice a year. Jeff, how often do we do that today?
We do that.
Twice?
Yeah.
All right, so that's actually what we're doing,
Yeah.
basically, okay.
Yeah, I think it's, yeah.
Because I was looking at it like, oh, is this a recommendation that we're not doing that? Because I thought we were, but.
Yeah, yeah. Some of it is the way we outreach.
Yeah.
The Old Home Day,
Yeah,
consumer confidence report.
okay.
Yeah,
Just some of the level of service goals when we met, we added what we were already doing into those goals, so people would know, and
Okay.
then added to them for, so.
exactly. And I kind of put here what I thought were the highlights.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, I mean, consumer confidence reports, I mean,
You
I
have
don't
to do
think I
that
have to convince
every year.
everybody that water's important.
Yeah. I think that was more about not necessarily sharing the consumer confidence report, but sharing it on the website,
Okay.
if I remember correctly.
We send them,
Recently, we've posted them on the website, made it aware on the postcard billing. But the consumer confidence report also highlights what we've done to the system over the past years. Just a lot of quality.
All right, horizontal assets, a lot of people are surprised by how much they have out there. In your case, you've got about 22 miles of water mains, 1,372 service lines, 235 gate valves, and 159 hydrants.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot.
For a small town, it sure is.
Sorry?
I said for a small town, it sure is.
Yeah, yeah.
and for a department that's short-staffed.
You're not alone. Vertical assets, Fowler Well number 1 and 2, and the Storm Center Well. Fowler Well number 1 installed in 1979, Fowler Well number 2 in 1999, and the Storm Center Well 1947. Yeah. We also have some privately owned systems that are linked to your system. They're not the responsibility of Bristol, but the town does assist the owners with maintaining these systems. So that's Red Sun, the gravel pack well, 1998, and a steel storage tank are the two main vertical assets. All right, prioritizing assets. So we use this matrix to prioritize assets. We'll assign a probability of failure score, which depends on the condition of the asset, if we have that information. If we don't have that information, we'll go on when the asset was installed and what we think the estimated useful life is. Sometimes capacity is an issue. For example, Bristol has a lot of small diameter water mains. Impact of failure, you know, is a failure of this asset something that would threaten public health and safety, water quality, maybe damage a roadway, big sinkhole? And how many customers might be impacted by an asset failure? And would it be a major customer like a school or a hospital? So we assign scores of 1 to 5 for all of these. When it comes to condition scores, 1 is excellent condition, 5 is very poor condition. Probability of failure is also 1 to 5, so 1 is a very low probability of failure and 5 is very high. Same with impact, 1 is low and 5 is high. The risk score, to get that, you multiply the probability of failure times the impact of failure, and that number allows you to rank your assets. So to list out all your assets, we would have a lot of slides. So I just kind of made a short list here. On the vertical side of things, the chemical feed equipment at Fowler Well, the station control panel, the flow meter, and some of the HVAC equipment sort of met our criteria as coming due in the next 10 years for upgrades or replacement. Storms, and you know, by the way, chemical feed equipment is going to be on the list a lot because it's very short-lived typically. So Storm Center Well, chemical feed equipment, the booster pump station, the flow meter, and at Hopkins Tank, the RTU equipment and the access gate. And this is just a count of some of the highest risk and priority renewal, you know, things that are going to be coming due in the next 10 years or so in the horizontal side of things.
So basically you're saying on this chart, there's 26 gate valve water main on the lake system that are at high risk? Or is that a value or is it a count?
That's a count.
All right, so so 26 gate valves and 27 hydrants.
Yes.
And then there's, all right, I get it.
Yeah, and you know, typically gate valves and hydrants have an estimated useful life of 50 years or so, so they kind of age out faster than the pipes do.
And when you place something in high risk, does that say you want to have a replacement within 1 to 3 years, right? Like, so what's the target replacement date for high risk versus priority renewal?
I would say if it has a probability of failure score of 4, we usually say replace it in 2 years. And if it's a probability of failure score of 5, we say replace it within 1 year.
Okay.
But
So then what makes high risk? Is it probability 4 and above?
yes,
Okay.
yes. And impact of 4 or above too makes it highest risk. Priority renewal has a lower impact, but
Yeah.
you know, it's coming to the end.
Is it, I assume it's the physical condition of it that,
Yeah, well, I mean, in this case, we mostly went with age,
okay.
because that's the information we had, and, you know, you gotta start somewhere, and I think that staff will probably go through this inventory and, you know, revise things.
Because I'm assuming they're all sort of in the same, the system was built at one time. and
Up
so
by the lake, yeah.
You do all the gates, and so 50 years,
Yeah. That's,
you gotta replace all the
right,
gates.
right. I guess that's sort of where I'm going, like, how did we determine, like, what was where?
Yeah.
Right. All right. Oh, I'm talking about the vertical assets again. I think we can skip that one, sorry. So I put a cost to all of these that are coming due for replacement in the next 10 years, and that's $3.6 million. And just a couple of notes about that. This is a full replacement cost. You may not need a full replacement. You might just need a repair. You know, and it could be too that despite the age of the asset, it's still functioning, so you don't have to replace it. So, you know, consider this like a starting point and a very conservative planning level estimate.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to figure out from this chart is, so we got things that are a risk score of 20, it's 835,000. What are the things that are related to that 835,000? Like, are those hydrants, like what?
Well, it's,
It's all the things that have a risk score of 20?
right,
Okay.
right.
So I have a quick question, and this may be just as much for Jeff as it is for you, but, so some of these gate valves in particular that have to be replaced, is there an option to rebuild these at all, or is it strictly you just replace them?
I think, again, it's based, this is based on age of the gate valve. I think lots of times soil conditions play a part in that, you know.
Yeah.
They may not- Some of these valves I dig up, they look like brand new, and there's others that have been in the ground for 3 years, and they look like they've been in the ground for 50.
Yeah.
Just depending on-
And I guess that's kind of what I'm getting at to a point too, is, you know, I trust that if it was you digging it up and you dig it up and I was like, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, that'll last another 20 years, you're not gonna replace it. But, you know, if we're doing this 10 years from now, after you're gone, are we just gonna be, you know, replacing things that don't necessarily need to be replaced and spending money we don't need to spend?
Yeah, that very well could happen. I mean, it's-
I'm pretty ignorant on this whole subject, other than the only reason I asked about rebuilding is because I know on the pump on a fire truck, you can rebuild the valve once it starts leaking, so.
And we do that a lot with the fire hydrants, we'll just rebuild them,
Yep,
refurbish them
yep.
in place.
So,
And then that can reset the clock,
yeah,
and we have the ability to do that.
gotcha, okay.
Right, I mean, they're out there flushing the system twice a year, so they're gonna, you know, they're gonna run across a valve that's not working properly.
Yeah.
They're gonna run across a hydrant that's not working
Oh,
properly.
God, yeah,
So,
Real quick, and then, just from that, so we now have a program with everything cataloged,
yes.
with age and everything,
Yeah, and it's
to
awesome.
track all that.
I said, and it's awesome.
There you go.
We got to look at it yesterday, so.
yeah. Yeah, that's what you were telling me about it.
you want something that's gonna be helpful and useful and
Yep.
user-friendly as possible. All right, so that's a speckle chart of all your assets.
Oops, sorry, I hit the button. Read that.
Oh, no, that's okay.
Okay.
It's just a speckle chart. So I included the estimated replacement value of all your water system assets. This is something that a lot of times doesn't enter people's awareness. It's not shown on the financials usually unless it's a very new system. So based on recent bid tabs that we've seen, and you know how prices have been lately, especially construction, we came up with $75 million. So that's your investment in the water system. And that's just a pie chart of that. Your system's very typical. It's mostly the water pipe. Oh, I'm missing a
I was gonna say, what?
Those are hydrants. Where
Okay.
did that go?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, it's
it's
on the print.
It's on this
It's
one.
on the print.
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah, all right, yeah, so your water pipe is like 59.7 million of it. And that's pretty typical. And you might be wondering, well, why do I need to worry about 100 years from now? But this is kind of handy to have in your pocket, because when you're setting rates, you always have to kind of look over the next hill and see what's coming up. You don't want a rate shock or anything like that. And this is sort of more of a guide. It's not like all these things are going to explode during this time frame. It's just to kind of keep you aware, like if we were here in 2054 or something, and we were kind of looking at this big number here, we would want to be prepared for that. So that's what that chart is for. Kind of keep you looking forward. A lot of times if people pay down a loan, they're like, oh good, we can cut rates, but might not be a good idea. As part of this asset management plan, we built a rate model, and we considered 4 scenarios. Scenario 1 and 2 are just a base where we're looking at matching existing revenues to existing expenditures and debt. But scenario A1 includes Freudenberg, scenario 2 excludes Freudenberg. And we did that because they're a very large customer on the water system, and that would have quite an impact. Scenario B matches existing revenues, existing expenditures and debt, and it includes a $50,000 contribution to capital reserves annually. And scenario C matches existing revenues and debt. It includes the $50,000 capital contribution. And we also included a line item for $150,000 for asset renewals. And I'll show you how we came up with that number. So the rate model projects rates from 2026 to 2030, and we use 2025 as kind of the base year. The estimated asset replacement costs for the first 10 years were $3.6 million. So we took half of that, saying a typical capital improvement plan is for 5 years. And then we did an amortization schedule, assuming this would be funded by a 20-year SRF loan at 3.5%. And the annual payments for that first 5 years averaged out to be $150,000. And that's how we came up with that number.
The, I apologize, I'm just, if I'm bouncing around, scenario B and C, those also do not include for Freudenberg?
Those do include Freudenberg. Yeah, it's only scenario A2 that excludes Freudenberg. All right, so these are the results of that rate model. So this is what your average customer is paying now, $245 a year. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I'm wondering if
Seems
that might
low.
have been, it might have been updated, which would kind of make sense with the 14% increase, I think, from the whole one year. Yeah, I think we're just a little bit high, I don't know if that's
Well,
reflected.
if Freudenberg uses so much, wouldn't, if their numbers are in there, that'll skew everybody up, right? So if Freudenberg's in there from an average perspective, it's almost like you have to do two
Yeah.
different averages, right? Like, take the industrial use out of it for a minute, and then, so.
Yeah, so you can see, starting in 2026, if we're matching existing revenues, and we're matching revenues to existing expenditures and debt, excluding Freudenberg. Well, first of all, the average annual payment would go up to $257, but then when you exclude Freudenberg, it would go up to $319. So that would be the impact of losing Freudenberg on the water system. And I think Desmond actually had some questions about Freudenberg's contribution, so.
Yep.
Yeah, that might change a little bit.
Yeah. I was thinking our debt, our recent rates might be on the town's website on the dashboard.
So is there any reason that we would not have Freudenberg outside of them shutting their doors?
That's the only reason, I just,
Okay.
I wanted to run that just
Yeah.
to, because they're just huge when it comes to.
Yeah, no, I just didn't know if there was some other, like, alternative plan that they could come up with or something that would limit their usage or something like that, or,
Yeah.
And they did attend to the level of service workshop, where they sent a representative to the meeting too, so
Good.
it was good.
Yeah, I mean, they seemed very happy with the quality of the water for sure. It was, they said it was very good for their manufacturing process, so,
Right.
yeah. All right, now this is the lead service line inventory. You guys have a lot of unknowns. We found a little bit of lead too, but I think some of that information might have been out of date. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is definitely a work in process too. I got these numbers from the initial inventory that was submitted in October. But I think this summary down here is pretty helpful. 10 lead service lines, 2 galvanized requiring replacements. That means it's a galvanized line that could have been downstream from a lead component at some point. He had 183 non-lead, but the largest number is the unknowns. So I think that's what we need to work on. We kind of put numbers to some of these things, but this is based on that initial inventory, so I expect this to change quite a bit. We use a number of $200 if the service line is unknown only on the customer side. So that means to identify that service line, someone has to go down in the basement and get a picture of it. So not a heavy lift, but there's only 163 of those that are unknown on the customer side only. The vast majority are unknown on both sides, the system side and the customer side. So those would have to be excavated unless they can be excluded in some other way. And we used a cost of $20,000 for replacing the lead and galvanized service lines. And of course, the non-lead, you don't need to do anything, they're fine. So unknowns can still be eliminated through additional document review. I'm told there may have been a lead ban here in Bristol in the 1950s, but we haven't located that document
I
yet.
know the pipes were replaced in most of the lead goosenecks. I believe all the lead goosenecks were eliminated during that installation in 51, 52.
Okay.
I don't know if it was necessarily a lead ban.
Ban.
but-
And I saw in one of your annual reports, it looked like there was a voluntary lead service line replacement in 1979. And I think Jeff gave us some documents for that. So,
What is the age of the first implementation of the system?
I think right now, our oldest pipes that I know of are 1950, well, 47, 49 is when the well went in on Storm Center, so some of that pipe, most of the town was replaced in 51, 52. There is, I'm unsure about South Main Street. There is some older sections, but the oldest part was the downtown, and that was, as you know, was replaced. And then the river crossing behind Gina's Restaurant was replaced, and that was actually from the late 1800s.
Oh, wow.
That was installed. So, I believe the cast iron that we have in town, although being lead joints, it is cement lined cast iron.
yeah, and for whatever reason, EPA is not concerned about the lead joints.
The joints,
At this point,
Yeah.
yeah, it's all.
You test for it anyway, don't you?
Yeah, we do lead and copper sampling every 3 years
Yeah.
anyways throughout the system.
Yeah. Well, and this is all because of what happened in Flint, so. All right. Oh, and by the way, that, it doesn't have to be a lead ban, but if there was like a specification for water service lines, that would work too.
Yeah.
Or, there was another community that updated their building code in like 1981 or something. And that building code banned or excluded lead service lines. So that was acceptable too. All right, deliverables. We had done a water asset management program 8 or 9 years ago,
Yeah,
maybe?
was it 17?
Like 7 years ago.
17.
Yeah, 2017, that's right. So we revised and updated the files. At that time, the water and sewer department didn't have their own ArcGIS online account, but as part of this asset management program, they got one. So all those files are uploaded and mapped on their account. We uploaded a story map. A story map is kind of a glorified PowerPoint. And you can put an interactive map in it or like dashboards and things like that. We made some Python tools that we saved to the GIS workstation, and those just, you know, staff isn't gonna be using this all the time, so we tried to automate routine tasks. So they just have to run these tools rather than trying to remember every single step in the process.
So where are those installed?
At our, down in our shop, in the training room upstairs, we have that workstation computer in this
And
GIS.
And we can talk about some of that, the computer stuff later, but it's backed up and we have copies and all that, right?
I believe, yeah, that's on Nesset's.
Nesset monitors that computer, so it's all backed up through the Nesset backups.
Okay. And
It's
then-
not backed up to this building, but it is backed up through the data backup programs.
And we can access that through the cloud on.
Yeah, it's all good, I'm just,
Yeah.
because if, obviously, we're investing in it, right? And if it's running on a local computer there, something, everything breaks, as we keep talking about with the, the water system, like, everything breaks eventually. We gotta figure out when, how we repair, that's all.
Okay.
I keep telling my boss that we need our own asset management program to keep track of our computers and software and all that,
Yeah.
because everything does break at the worst possible time. Yeah, so, like, Christina was saying, the files are actually stored in the cloud, so those should be good. But the Python tools are saved to the local workstation. If something happens, we can always
Yeah.
shoot those over, but, anyway, one of the things these tools do is they export the inventory files into a financial planning spreadsheet. That's where I got all those graphs and charts and so forth from. We also provide the level of service matrix in an Excel format. And, staff can take that and update it. And we have an extra tab in there. I don't know if we talked about that at the level of service workshop, but we have an extra tab because people always have future goals, like a few years down the road. So we kind of added a tab so they can take care of that, keep track of those things. All right, next steps. We have to finalize the report, have a couple of questions for Jeff still. We need to incorporate review comments, equipment and software purchases. The big one is the utility locating equipment, and I think that's on the way.
Yeah.
That'll be great. And the grant deadline is April 1st, 2024, so anything after that, DES won't reimburse you for, but
Do you mean 2025?
2025.
Okay.
It's April Fool's Day regardless, it's all good.
And I think that's it.
I was gonna say, we missed our deadline, Jeff.
Who's writing? Only by a year, don't worry about it.
I'm still writing 2024, so.
I can't believe I'm still doing that.
Who's writing the grant?
We've already gotten the
Oh, we've already
grant.
got the
This is
grant.
the final closeout completely of the grant.
Oh, I see,
Yeah.
We
okay.
have to have
All right,
all the equipment purchased
Yeah,
and
yeah.
ready to go.
okay.
Right, and I think Caitlin Curtis from DES is on.
I am, yes.
I don't know if you
Yeah,
wanted to
thanks
add
for,
anything.
accommodating me remotely.
You're welcome. I don't think she heard you, Margaret.
Oh, Katie, I was just gonna ask if you had anything to add.
I think you summarized everything perfectly, Margaret. With the grant deadline and, any invoices need to be dated on or prior to April 1st. We can accept requests after that date. It's just the work needs to be completed by April 1st, so.
All right. I think we'll make it.
I think, one thing, the wastewater, I'd like to do the wastewater someday. And I guess there's grants available for that. There's also grants for stormwater and planning, right?
Yes, so there's, the first week of April, DES is having a series of funding webinars about the funding programs they have available, and one of them is the wastewater AMP and the planning grants. We discussed maybe doing a build-out study for the water system. And DES does offer planning grants for that too, and I think the deadline for the water system is in the fall.
Well, so it's an interesting point, Jeff, because I think earlier in the presentation you said, we have a lot of smaller, not really undersized, but smaller water mains in town.
Yes.
So to me, that also harkens to what are our capacities, right? So, I know that things like a lot of the homes up around the lake, the max size that a lot of the houses have are 3/4 inch lines coming off the main into the homes. Now that we have so many people, myself included, taking down a older property, putting up a new house, right? More moving up year round. Do we have any capacity challenges today when we're thinking about asset management? So if you're thinking about that, like the sewage and other stuff, I think generically we gotta try to figure out if we have any spots like that in town, and then probably more importantly, maybe you figure out a way to get that information to the planning board, right? Because that, to me, which, by the way, just as an aside, you sent that note when they were working on the land use section. It was very helpful having your perspective around where we did and didn't have things from a planning.
Service elevation.
So any information like that, trying to figure out how we share that with the planning side would be a big deal.
And by the way, we updated the hydraulic model as part of this AMP too. And I didn't add that in because I didn't want to make the presentation too long and boring, but yeah, we did find some trouble spots, and it overlaps what was found, in the prior one.
The available fire flow.
Yeah.
Especially in the downtown where you have the 6-inch lines, so up around the lake, you do have some larger lines and
16 inch up
16, 12s, 10s, 8s, but in the downtown area, it's a lot of 6-inch stuff.
We used to have a great map hydrant system in the fire station, but over time it faded so badly you can't even read it.
We can help with that.
There is a new one
Is
from
there?
Cartographics as well. They also have a hydrant map.
Yeah, this was probably 30 or 40 years old, but somebody had actually taken highlighter and highlighted all the 16 inch, the 12 inch, the 8 inch line.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I don't think, we
I
don't
probably
have the
did that
lines,
when
we
I
just
started.
have the hydrants.
Probably did, yeah. But in that situation, it's extremely helpful.
Yeah, we did talk about,
Yeah.
working with the fire department to do coating of the, color coding of the
Yep.
hydrants.
Yeah, because that was like, I haven't been here for so long, I know like, you have a fire up on Chestnut Street, then you better start thinking about alternative options for water, but you're up on the lake, you're gonna get, a zillion gallons a minute at 150 PSI right out of the hydrant, so.
Yeah, and that's one thing Jeff asked for. He asked us to map the fire hydrants by flow.
Yep,
So that,
that's fantastic.
yeah, so we can do that.
Yeah, the fire department sent a representative too, so that in the level of service, and that was a good discussion.
Yeah, that's one of those things, like even with you, if you're short-staffed, then I'm sure, I can't speak for Chief LaRoche, but I'm sure he'd be willing to work with you if it was a matter of just painting bonnets or something like that,
Yeah. They did offer up assistance for that.
They did,
Yeah,
yeah.
good. Well, thank you, that was very, it wasn't exciting, but very informative. So,
I'll work on the entertainment value.
No, it's one of those areas that I can probably speak for all of us, say we don't know much about it, so.
Right, yeah, and that's really common, so,
Yeah.
yeah, no worries.
Yeah, excellent.
Awesome,
Thank you.
And we appreciate you coming in at night.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure you have better things to do.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Anything, Jeff, anything you or Christina need from us right now before that deadline?
I made the purchase, I ordered the line locator today.
Yep.
That was the huge one. There's a couple of tablets that are in the budget, we're hoping to get that, we're getting that.
Did you see their response?
I did not.
We were running the tablets that we looked at by Nessa, and they have couple of concerns, but we could probably get those straightened out.
Yeah.
So.
So we're just hoping to make those.
Yeah, so administratively, because we don't have another meeting before that deadline, so.
Administratively, everything that we're doing is things that we're allowed to do, but it
Excellent.
doesn't exceed the thresholds, so.
Yeah. Good.
So I think we're good.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good night, Jeff. Tomorrow.
It's a dry subject.
Maybe.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Thank you, Katie.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
I'm gonna close this because I don't need it now.
I should have asked while Jeff was in here, any bites on that open position?
We have 2 open positions and we do have 1 bite, and it's a possible good candidate. Jeff was gonna schedule, he asked me if I wanted to sit in to the meeting, and I said, if I'm available, sure, I'll sit in. I mean, interview, not meeting, interview, because it's related to HR. And can't, so we didn't want that, we wanted, that's the only reason he asked me to sit.
Oh, it's related to our HR person?
Yes,
Okay,
so-
gotcha.
Right now, he's gotten, we've set up, I had the Indeed account under the town administrator, I've set it up so Heather is now also on the Indeed account.
Yep.
Under HR, and she said they've gotten like 15 applications through the Indeed account, which was good.
Yeah.
Some have certifications, some don't. And some with certifications may ask for more money than we could probably offer them, but Jeff's weeding through them, so.
Yeah. Okay, let us know if you need anything on it. Committee and board assignments. Do you have a list?
There is a list, I'll put them up on the screen. These are the only ones that we usually assign, doesn't mean that you can't do something else. Well, a couple, there's also other questions on here, but do you want to just start with the committee and board assignments first?
Well, no, we'll go right down the
Okay.
list. So schedule review. Scott, I don't need to tell Sean, but John, we're typically 6 o'clock meeting start times, but typically here at 5 o'clock for non-public.
Yeah. Or a work
Um,
session or something, yeah.
Or a work session or whatever, so can't remember having a meeting that we weren't here at 5 o'clock for, so.
Sometimes 4.
Maybe 5:30, yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, the only time it's not 5 is when it's 4.
We avoid 4 like the plague.
Yeah, it's all good.
So with.
Speaking from 2 years' experience, nothing productive gets done after 9 o'clock at night.
No question about it.
So we try and keep it reasonable.
I did add my comment about your schedule, so if you're still good with the first and third Thursday, I don't know, we usually ask the board when
Yeah.
we start over again.
Any conflicts?
And
No,
then
Thursdays were great for me.
Yeah, same here.
the only
That was
question
my
I did
expectation.
didn't put on this list was the summer concerts. I know some people in the past boards, I just want to throw that out there, July and August, those are Thursdays. So you wouldn't be able to go to those if any of you do. And some past boards have changed to Monday. It does get too confusing, so, but I'm throwing it out there.
We've worked around it.
Yeah.
I mean, I know like between Les and then like, I was involved with the Voices Against Violence as a judge or whatever, and it's usually only one of us that, if something comes up that we say, hey, this is important, let's move it to Monday or Friday that week, or let's move it to the following
Yeah,
Thursday.
yeah.
Right.
I think it's easier to,
Maybe we can get people to attend. You can say, hey, stop over and see them and then come visit us.
there you go.
It's incentive to get done early enough.
I was gonna
to
say,
see
hopefully
them.
we'll-
You'll be done before then, right? This is always on the list. Do you want a summertime meeting? I don't find that they are very, in my opinion,
No,
not very.
I
productive.
don't think so. It
They're
brings,
outdated.
Didn't know it was
It-
an option.
They usually have.
If we had people saying, why don't you have a summertime, why didn't you have summertime meeting?
We haven't, because we haven't had it, 2 or 3 years now?
It's 2 years, yeah.
3 probably.
I can
and
take
in the
this off
3 or
the
4
list.
years before that, we had like 6 or 7 people.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, the
ridiculous.
majority of the people at your meeting were your department heads.
Yeah, we bring them in on a Saturday morning and yeah.
Yes.
So I generally agree with everybody. The question I have is, and because they couldn't vote, but does Summertown meeting get property owners that aren't necessarily full-time residents in? And if it, that's.
So historically, that was the exact
That's the intent.
That was the exact intent.
Yeah.
And
You
it's an
don't have a
informational
say,
only meeting.
you don't have a say at town meeting, and you're here during the summer,
Yeah.
so this is everything that's happening in town. I think it's really gotten, between the way life works out these days and
Technology.
the information that is out there, I think that it's outrun its course.
Okay. It's all good, I mean, that was just my only question.
I think the community page takes care of all of that.
Oh, yeah.
Checks all those boxes.
Between that and the town
It's actually,
website.
and it's, you'd be surprised how many people actually watch us
Us on
live.
YouTube?
Yeah.
Live or the recordings.
Or the recording.
Can you tell how many people are watching live?
Yeah.
Just two.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it live or is it memorized?
75 to 80 watch.
within a week or so.
Yeah.
Okay, all good.
Yep.
So you can do it on camera.
All right, committee appointments, budget committee, so Les was our rep last year, and she's no longer here, and will be on the budget committee.
That's true.
What night are those?
Those are
Tuesday
Monday
nights.
nights.
Mondays?
I know,
Tuesday?
Tuesday nights.
I'm sorry, Tuesday, it used to be Monday nights.
Tuesday,
It's
I
the-
wish
it's
they'd
the
go
other Monday
back
of
to
the week?
Monday.
That's why I cannot do it, is because it's Tuesday nights.
How often do they meet?
They meet,
Seasonal.
so basically from, I don't even know if they did
They are meeting
Organizational.
April 15th.
yeah, and that's like it until August.
Yeah.
It's probably organization.
It's organization, election
There's-
of officers. I think we're gonna try and also try to get their schedule set early,
Yeah.
because it's so much easier if it's already set.
It kind of
usually
starts out,
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
No, good.
No, you had your hand up.
No, good.
I was just gonna say, it kind of starts out every other week, and then it's basically every week towards the end.
They're trying to make it opposite of the meetings that already have this room, so we're not bumping them as much as we
Right.
were. So it was every other week. There were, this past year, there were a couple that were every week, but not all month, every week. It was only 2 in a row.
Yeah.
You remind me, or remind us to have a discussion about the budget schedule again?
Later in this meeting?
Sure,
Okay,
yeah.
okay,
Yeah,
yes.
come on, let's show
So,
you.
but just before we like go back and forth on individual ones, does anybody have ones that they're like, I really want
I
that
was gonna say,
one?
that's probably.
Well, that's what I'm.
That might be the
yeah,
easier
that's
way
what
to
I'm
do it.
getting to, we can.
I'd like to stay on Conservation Commission.
Well, you don't have, you can, you don't represent, sorry, we've never appointed a select board member of conservation, but we can if you want to.
Right, no,
I don't see why not.
He's already appointed.
If you're already a member, you can stay a member. You
well,
don't-
my thought is, that I might as well be the selectman's representative.
There isn't one.
There isn't.
There isn't one.
You can do
Oh.
planning.
Yeah.
Carol is just a
Okay.
member.
Carol is just a
Oh, okay,
member.
I'm sorry, yeah.
I was wondering if you could still stay on as a member, which.
Yeah, you can, yeah, so I'll just stay, okay,
Okay.
Yeah.
sorry.
So budget committee, Scott, you would express.
I wouldn't mind, so I didn't realize it was Tuesday nights. I
It
do
is.
golf league on Tuesdays. But that's through the
That's, you're not gonna
summer,
run
and
into
then
that, yeah.
the majority of it should be done.
It's September on, for the most part.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to do backup,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, there might be a handful.
Yeah.
Because, because economic development is the one that I definitely want to, like, dig into. because
Okay.
it's just-
That sounds great.
That's
So
that's why you probably
there's
don't
been
want-
one economic development committee meeting in the past 2 years.
That's why he wants to.
Well, that would, yeah,
Yeah,
I have a
if
list.
you can
Well, so-
spark that fire.
We did put that on your planning session, because
Yeah.
we do have a big conversation to have about where do we want to go
Yeah,
with the economic development committee.
So when does HDC meet?
Tuesdays.
They only, yeah.
And
The
how often?
minimum, they
Oh,
meet
HDC is they
quarterly
have
at
to be
minimum. At minimum, they meet quarterly, but if they have cases or something that they're working on, it's the second Tuesday of every month. Not, but most of the time, I think Sean, you were on it, Dom, I think you were on it.
I was last year.
Yeah, so they only met, they have to at minimum meet 4 times a year.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean it's always quarterly, it's just because we're part of the,
They don't meet.
what is it, the LCLG, Certified Local Government, we have to meet 4 times. And it's a weird year, it's from October to September, something like that.
Anybody interested in historic district?
If you wanted to take it.
I don't care.
Yeah, I'd be willing to do it. I mean, I don't have a lot of outside bandwidth, but I mean, for 4 meetings a year,
Yeah.
it's something I'd be interested in, so.
And you put me down for backup since I did it already.
Excuse me. And so going back to budget, we said Scott, which Sean is a backup?
Scott was shown, yeah. And then planning board,
Probably me.
well, I was gonna say, you or John, I don't know.
I mean, my only worry about the planning board for me right now is, well, I'm sure we'll talk about this when we talk about economic development. I think economic development's gotta work with them quite a bit, and
Yep.
I just think there's a whole lot of stuff in there. I'm happy to back up whoever would take planning board.
Yeah.
Mainly because I don't, I also don't wanna go in there and go, all right, he was the chair, and then they're all still kind of looking and going, all right, what's what?
Does,
You know?
so does anybody have an issue with John taking economic development?
Absolutely not.
Does anybody want to be the alternate?
Well, when they were meeting, it was a Wednesday, opposite of the planning board. I don't know if that will change going forward, but they
Figure
were,
it out.
and Pemmy Taft's subcommittee, which that could change going forward, but they're Thursdays, opposite of the select.
I can take the alternate as the
Okay.
economic development, if nobody else, unless somebody wants it.
It's yours.
Thanks,
Sounds
buddy.
like a juice.
And Don, are you willing to take planning?
Yeah,
Okay, or do you have it?
No.
Okay.
unless somebody else really wants to.
Yeah, I'll back you up with that one.
Perfect.
That was easy.
That's fine.
Any other committees that you feel that you should, I just left it as in any other.
The only other one I would question, and this is more just because of John's change in position, technology committee, you're just
Yes,
involved
well,
with that?
the thing is I don't think we forgot, it's one of the things that I think we need to discuss, and we gotta kind of figure it out, right? Like, there's a whole host of things in there, whether it's the stuff with Hub 66 and Breeze Line, there's the stuff here with the town, right? Like this operation, like the stuff I was referring to earlier, right? There's just a bunch of little things, our contracts, you look at the asset management for the water department, right? We need asset management for all of the software and the things that we use from an IT perspective, right? Because there's no way to know operationally that everything's set, except somebody says, hey, we do that thing, and you go, oh, is that backed up, is that this? We need better processes there. So, yeah, I was gonna stay very involved in that. We have another member of the planning board, actually, that also says he wants to join the technology committee. The technology committee also was what I would say has been very non-traditional, meaning if you look at the members, when we first put it together, the folks that I was talking to all had IT backgrounds. A couple of them aren't Bristol residents, they own properties in Bristol, right? So because it's that structure, I wasn't sure sort of how we wanted to continue to go about that, you know what I mean?
So I put that on your planning session too, because that is one of the committees. I know that we had some discussions when we did the AV purchase order. The tech review committee chair felt very strongly about how, when we did that purchase order, things that we needed to do.
Yes,
And we didn't do them.
yes.
But I feel that we need to give more direction to the tech review committee as well as the EDC, so.
The issue was all about requirements.
Yeah.
Right, and what, because we, when we lay out, this is how we intend to use assets that the town is putting together, whether it's a building, whether it's, we're buying whatever it is, like, we should be able to have a bigger discussion around, okay, the requirement. And sometimes with, it's particularly technology, it's hard, right? Like, some people they're not necessarily involved in it every day. And then you end up with a large discussion, well, why do you really need that, right? Like, on that particular thing, one of the things I believe, this is John's belief, not the requirement, I believe we have to improve remote participation in our meetings, in public meetings. You look at the setup of this room, it's abysmal for somebody that's remote to hear, right? I think that's a requirement, especially for our type of community, because of a lot of property owners that aren't here, right? Like, they can participate. So, I looked at that equipment setup, and it's basically a duplication of what's here. And I'm like, no, I don't think it meets any of the requirements to achieve any of that stuff. And it was 17K or whatever it was. It wasn't the 17K, it was more like, we didn't articulate and figure out and agree. Because, by the way, I'm telling you John's interpretation of what I think we need. That does not mean that is what we need. I think it's, it's gotta, the board's gotta say.
So I
"No,
think
we
what I'm
want
getting
this."
from what you're saying is you want to stay involved.
Yes.
Okay.
I think Carol slipped him a 20. to say
What's that?
I think Carol slipped him a 20 to say that.
All right.
What?
He'd
No.
always complain, he'd come back from a meeting,
Yeah.
from vacation, and you'd be online, and you would say, you don't know how hard it is to hear.
Oh, then it's horrible. I mean, I
So
participated in the planning board. a few
We'll work
times.
on that. Let's get through
Yeah.
what we're working on here. and-
It was
So
horrible.
I don't think there's any other committees, I just, if there's some.
No, I mean, there's the energy committee, but I don't think we need a rep for
So
that.
one thing I would say that I would love us to figure out, maybe it's in a work session or whatnot. What is the structure of the committees and how they relate to each other? And what I mean by all that is, we've got the all committees thing coming up.
Is that in the book?
No. That is, I'll tell you.
It's like a flow chart, you think?
Yeah, so my point
Or
is.
Venn diagram?
Well, my point is if you, let's take the energy committee for a second, okay? Should the energy committee, should certain committees basically, report is not really the right word, but like.
I get where you're going.
Planning board, right?
Yeah.
Like what things would allow us
So
to
good.
drive better planning, better communications,
Yeah.
and better involvement? So do we relate the boards differently?
I think a good example is the EDC and Pemmy Path
Yes,
worked hand in hand like that. So Pemmy Path was a subcommittee of EDC. And I think that, I like where you're going, I think that's something for our planning session,
yeah.
so.
All I'm saying is, I think there's other ways to sort of think about that, so that way we don't, it's not all serial in nature.
Yep, nope, I think that's a good topic for our planning session.
I got a pretty light lift on that list of things, so you can just, if there, if there's any other backup that's needed
Yeah.
or anything.
When she takes vacation, you can be here.
Yeah,
Yeah, you'll
I mean, and I can, because I
I
got
have some other thoughts.
I've
but
got
we don't have to do that.
scheduled flights.
Yeah, that's something we can talk about, that's a non-public discussion. I think, I guess that's it.
Good.
All right.
Can you guys just run through those appointments so that I can put them on the website?
Yes.
Sure.
Go ahead, Christina, you can.
Budget committee, Scott, primary, Sean, backup. Historic district, Rob, primary, Don Milgrim, backup, or alternate, sorry, that's the word. Planning board, main is Don, alternate is John. Economic development committee, John is main, alternate is Rob. And the others are really committees they were already on. Tech review committee doesn't have a page right now.
Yeah.
And Sean's gonna stay on the conservation commission.
And the only other one I would bring up that's not on there is fireworks. If anybody has any interest in being on the committee, I'm on the committee. I'm not, even if I'm not on the committee, I can't get away from it at this point because of the responsibilities I have with it. But if anybody else is interested, I would certainly encourage.
I'd be happy to help.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think we need all the help we can get, especially when it comes to trying to get people involved and like to actually try and start offsetting the cost impact on the town, so.
Yes.
So, I think they're doing a meeting in April.
Yeah.
I'll double check.
Hopefully
the
it's
date,
not
but
when I'm in
I can
Florida.
invite anybody who wants to attend. Sorry,
Hopefully it's not I'm only down there for 4 days, but.
I'll, we can push it out if it is.
No, I think
The last question I had around the committee stuff was, and maybe this is part of the planning session, the all committee stuff, like what do we really want out of that? how are
We have another meeting scheduled.
It's next week.
Which next week, that's why I'm asking the question now, right? Because it's, I think there's,
What day is that?
Well, so I did send that out to everybody to save the date. But I was gonna send an updated one tomorrow. It is the 24th, which is Monday, and it's here at,
Oh, it's actually in there.
yeah, I sent invitations to every committee to save the date.
I mean, I guess the hard part is, everybody ends up sitting around and going, okay, they've got their perspective for the thing that they're trying to drive. And, Sean, you heard, and I'm at Dawn, actually, I think pretty much everybody's heard my rant about planning, right? Like, to me, this is, it's the combination of trying to figure out that structure and how those things interrelate with the master plan. Like, what are we really trying to drive and go do as a community? I know we worry about burning out our volunteers, we worry about, sometimes when we have folks that are super passionate about a thing and we try to figure out how to help them understand the priorities, it comes back to using the master plan. Right? Because that's the thing that we can use to communicate with everybody. This is what we're doing. So if somebody, they may have a great idea, but it doesn't quite fit yet, or it doesn't go to the priorities, like, because the one thing we've said, I said it to Rick, I said it at the all committees meetings before, a level of what are the priorities, so then everybody sort of looks to the select board and goes, okay, well then what are our priorities, right? They definitely need some guidance. I think we have an opportunity to link that to what the planning board has been trying to do. And I will say that when I came in last and you guys sent out that memo asking everybody to respond, it was super helpful. Like, it really was. When I was referring to Jeff's memo earlier, Jeff sent a memo and was like, hey, by the way, as you guys are working on the land use section, here's the limitations of the water systems. We only go to here, and like a whole bunch of stuff that nobody knew. And it was a great example of this great detail in that department that needs to be represented. So that's why, like, for me, like, if I had to pick a long-term goal or anything about why I ran and what I want to try to accomplish, it's trying to bring those pieces together. It's not about trying to drive a specific outcome for me personally. It's more like how all of these pieces come together. Bristol has an amazing amount of investment in this town. The people, the infrastructure items that we have, like, we have a lot of pieces. I think it's our job how we bring them together. But then it also becomes how do we communicate with everybody about what we're doing. I think that's the master plan.
One of the things you're gonna experience this as a board member too.
Oh,
And
sure.
I hope you keep that focus. What I've personally found is that it's easy for us as a board to get bogged down in
100%.
the day-to-day and not the forward looking. So that's why I'm glad that you're involved, and I'm glad that you have that vision to kind of keep reminding us of that.
Absolutely. We've talked about it.
Yeah, it's real easy to, you come out of an
100%.
hour-long, non-public or something, and then it's, the looking into the future doesn't cross your mind at that point.
No,
Yeah.
listen, it's hard, right? This is why I said earlier about I want to think about the structure of the committees, right? Because there might be a way that we put them together where they got a little more, not exactly autonomy, but they.
More independent.
Yeah, where they can work but they're, to sort of quote the Santa movie, like, we're gonna be independent together, right? Like, but they can go off and try to achieve those goals without feeling like everything has gotta run here, and then we have a better way to sort of tie the goals together. So anyway.
Yeah, and we don't want it all running, we can't have it all running here.
That's correct.
But that said, we need to give them direction.
That is absolutely correct.
So that was the idea with the all committees. I think initially, that we what did we have, 2 or 3?
So this will be our
This is the
This will be a third session, which we had talked about trying to
But there
do
was one
four.
way before, this will be the fourth technically.
Okay.
But-
And, I think what we accomplished in the first couple was to kind of get everybody on the same page, knowing who does what, because it's like, the planning section may not necessarily know what, economic development does, or, so I think we've kind of accomplished that. I mean, obviously, there's gonna be always new people coming in, people going out, new people coming in, but.
Yeah.
I assume Rick's gonna facilitate? Yeah.
So Rick has picked the dates, they're set for every quarter for the rest of the year. I didn't want to send them out for everybody for the rest of the year until everybody had shifted their positions around. But I guess the question would be, Monday's meeting, I'm not sure where Rick's focus will be, but there probably should be some guidance for where you want Rick to take this. Rick was focusing more on opening communication and those things. And if that's not where we want him to take it, we want him to take it a different direction, we have to give him that guidance. So,
I think we should kind of give him
yeah.
Unless we have something that we really want him to, we can think of that we really want him to focus on.
Here's the deal. If we agree that the master plan can be the thing that helps guide us, right?
Yeah.
Communication should certainly be part of it. I'm not gonna poo-poo the piece that he's doing. But if we say we're gonna adopt that direction, we redid the vision section in 2020, right, 2021 really. And we went through what I would consider to be the historical, how you update a section in the master plan versus what the planning board is finishing now with the land use section. Maybe use part of that opportunity to send the vision section out to everybody again. Here's the link. Does everybody agree? Is there something you think that we're not capturing here? Like where we're trying, because everybody's gonna have a perspective. And use Rick to try to drive a consensus with everybody on that. Do we have it right? Don't we have it right? And if we don't have it right, awesome, we fix it. If we do have it right, awesome, then we all agree, and we know where to go from there. Because everything that we do, whether it's any of our projects or anything, starts from where do we want Bristol to go. So that was my 2 cents on all committees.
Let's do this.
Because that's only a few pages. It's not a very big section.
Personally, I think we should let Rick run with what he's got for Monday. I don't want to change, and I'm sure he's probably already got a plan in place 3 or 4 days out. So let's run with that.
Right now, he's watching on YouTube going, you bastard.
I highly doubt it. But anyway, I would say let's talk to him prior to the next one, and in the summer or whenever it may be, that we guide the discussion in that direction if that's what we're all in agreement on.
Yeah, again, that's my 2 cents off the cuff. So.
Okay, let's go to the TA report. So we talked a little bit about how we're gonna do this a little bit differently going forward. John, you're not really so much different for you, but the idea is gonna be basically for Christine to come with us, for the TA report to be structured as basically acknowledgement of employees, that sort of stuff, like announcement of things that, like for instance, we approved 2 PDFs for new hires, she'll announce those. And then to have any topics that she needs decisions made on or votes taken on. Outside of that, the rest will be in the folder for us to take a few minutes to review. And if anybody has any questions, once she goes through everything she needs to.
That was what you were referring to earlier.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
I did.
So, so that said,
They're in a slightly different spot than the rest.
I put it where it said sign here. I was very
Rookie.
Oh, I know.
I was literal.
So if there are state forms, I mean, you're gonna have to go back and fix them, because they won't take those. That's fine. That's fine, don't worry about these forms. It would just be.
we can worry about that after the meeting.
Yeah, so.
So, go ahead, Christina, you can,
Start off with 70 Merrimack Street. We did receive the purchase, we signed the purchase and sale, we have a deposit on the property. I'm just waiting still for the town's attorney to determine how to handle the payment, because we do have to break that up. The town will only get a portion of that funds from that sale. We did receive the deed. I had it reviewed with the new owners, or the soon-to-be new owners. So I just need, if the board could go ahead, I don't know if you really have to vote on this, you already
this
voted
needs
on.
signatures.
I just need signatures. So this is the 70 Merrimack Street. 85 Lake Street, same thing. We've received a purchase and sale agreement. So on 70 Merrimack Street, we'll let you know that they are ready to close as soon as we get everything done. It has a 30-day time frame, but I'm sure we're closing on that next week. 85 Lake Street, we have a purchase and sale and a deposit on the building. We've gotten the deed here, the board just needs to sign. We've given them a little bit longer. They have, the closing will be over the next 45 days. They're working with financing, and so they just need to cross their T's and dot their I's. So if they can do it before 45, they will, but that's where we're at on that one, and that's 85 Lake Street.
Excellent. Anybody have any issue with either one of those being slightly extended if they need to? I think we would.
Next one is in your discussion folder. It's number 8, tier report discussion, not the additional, just the regular one. There are 3 documents in there. There's one from the attorney, there's one from the treasurer, and there's one from the finance office. With the TD Bank branch closure, the attorney talks about whose responsibility it is to make the decision whether to stay with TD Bank or to go to a new bank if that's what you're choosing. And then I've asked Kathleen for an opinion, who's our treasurer, and I've asked Lindsay for an opinion, who's the finance officer. They're both in there. What we've talked about is, and we've also talked with TD Bank. We've been approached by the Bank of New Hampshire and also Franklin Savings Bank. I haven't had any conversations with them yet. I wanted to talk to the board about, does the board want to set up a meeting with the treasurer and or the finance office to discuss whether we go out to RFP. You'll see in Kathleen's, she suggests that we do an RFP. It would be good to do our due diligence, but and the concern on the finance side is there's a lot of changes if we switch to another bank. That's gonna take a lot of work to do. We don't have to make these decisions before TD Bank obviously closes this branch. There are things that we can still stay with them longer, but wanted to feel off the board what their thoughts are for going out for an RFP or not with a bank.
I think we go for the RFP. I am cognizant of the fact it's a lot of work, but I think it's needed and due, and frankly, I don't really want to stay with TD Bank. Considering their unwillingness to invest in our community.
Yep.
But it gives us an opportunity to see if there are other options rather than staying.
Yes, I would concur with that sentiment. I certainly, if I had to pick one without doing so, obviously Franklin Savings Bank's in town. I think it'd be more convenient for the staff and they're investing in our community. That said, I also did hear a rumor that there is another bank interested in going in here.
That's good. I heard that too.
So that may, and if it is the bank that I did hear of, I'm not gonna say anything because I don't know if there's any truth to it whatsoever. But it would be a fairly local bank that would be interested in doing business with as well. So I think RFP is the way to go. So.
Okay.
They're free, so we don't have to change.
Yep.
At least we can see what, whether it's gonna be worth all the
Yeah.
work to change or not.
But yeah, just the fact that they're pulling out of the community makes me wanna, as a person, pull out of,
Yeah.
I know, and 2 of you are also weren't part of the original conversation, but they did offer, they're offering courier services, they're offering scanning checks for deposits, but it still leaves us open for cash. We just don't, that's gonna be a harder one, so.
Yeah, I would say, you know, between putting it out to RFP and then, you know, having a conversation with both Kathleen and Lindsay, and, you know, between the three, you can come up with a recommendation and come to us with it.
And while I understand the concern of the extra work, I don't want that to be a factor in whether we do something or don't do something, if it's the appropriate thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, if they were closing permanently versus just leaving, we'd have to do that work.
Right.
Right. And we'd have to do that in a much quicker fashion if they were closing permanently.
Exactly.
Also in that folder, there's a thing about energy. It was a notice that came from Clean Energy New Hampshire. I'd rather have you read that. I had a thought and I wanted to run that by you and see if you thought it would.
If you have someone in mind, and
Well, I was thinking.
Yeah, I like the thought.
yeah, what's that?
The thought was written down in your.
Of my TA report too.
Yeah, you don't have that.
Just show it to me.
I gotta.
Sorry,
I have to reopen it now.
So that's the information about it. We can submit a name, and then in the TA report, which is number 8.
Oh, it's on there.
Yeah.
I'm suggesting,
Yes,
Okay,
okay,
that's who I figured. I just.
it was the obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the deadline is next week, so I can submit something if you're good with that.
Yeah.
I think so.
All right, any,
I have additional items, but I'll make them fast. I put, that's a separate folder, I think. I don't think it's on your desktop, because these came in today. I will announce the new hires. There's Thomas Hagener. He is joining as a part-time firefighter EMT for the fire department, and Jeremy O'Neill is also joining as a part-time firefighter paramedic with the fire department. Employee adjustments, this is the first batch. I set them up with department personnel action, so they're in here by department, and I didn't individually give them a personnel action form. I did the person number. And so for those who don't know, personnel action form is how we do any adjustment for pay.
It's what we did earlier with
Yes.
the hires, the
So-
PAS, yeah.
So usually we have a PAF number that we assign to them, but I did it by department instead of individually assigning them. I wrote up either individual motions or one large motion. If you're okay to sign it, they're all in here. There are only 7 departments here. There will be 3 more next week.
Okay.
Not next week, next meeting. But we wanted to get the bulk of them done so we could start getting things ready in our system. So there is a motion there. You can either do them each department individually, or you can do them, but they're just what we agreed on in the step.
You're sitting there, do the
And then
large
the-
motion, you gotta read.
There's a bottom motion,
anybody have an objection to doing it all at once?
Yeah.
Let's do it all
so
at once.
it's that motion there that I wrote up for you.
Oh, that's the bottom paragraph?
Yep.
Okay, you ready? All right. I make a motion to approve PAFs 25016 for the fire department, PAF 25017 for the transfer station department, PAF 25018 for the assessing land use department, PAF 25019 for the town beaches, PAF 25020 for the water sewer department, PAF 25022 for the executive department, and PAF 25023 for the police department, which include step and COLA increases as approved on the 2025 wage scale with the new rates effective 4/6/25.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion by John, second by Don. That's gonna be tricky. John and Don, Don and Don.
Yeah.
Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
So your stamps are at your table. The only person who doesn't have a stamp, unfortunately, is John.
You can have mine, I never use it.
But they're in there. The next meeting you should have library, town clerk, tax collector's office. Actually, you don't sign up on the library. But, I'm so sorry, town clerk, tax collector's office and highway. There was a small thing I had to correct with the highway department. Victor won't be back till tomorrow, so.
You're gonna get to figure out why my wife hates my writing.
There you see mine.
Make an X.
The Primex has their conference on May 14th and May 15th. There's it's a very, very good conference. The event theme this year is Endurance Navigating with Intention. The conference, I don't know if any board members have an interest in attending. I can certainly register you if you do. It's up north. It will be held at the Omni Mount Washington Hotel in Bretton Woods on May 14th and 15th. Then there are some staff and admin departments who are very interested in going as well. This is one of the better. Primex is our liability, workers' comp, and unemployment compensation carrier. So they provide us a lot of coverage there, so I just wanted to give you a heads up. And if you're
What's the
interested-
cost associated with that to the town?
I'll look it back up again.
Yeah.
I think the conference itself is free, for town, but if you have to pay.
Is there a special rate or something?
Yeah, I think so, to stay at the hotel.
I'd be interested in it.
I can share it out
If
to
you
you.
wanna just get the info out. I
Okay.
certainly think it would be beneficial to at least have you.
Yeah, so, there's so far 3 from the executive office. I've emailed to ask if the other 2 are of interest as well. I would like to make sure someone's here to cover,
Yeah.
but, so I do want to attend that. Deb, so that Thursday, the 15th is your select board meeting, and I know we talked about having Deb cover the meeting, because there's no way if I go to the conference I can come back.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
and she's
that'd be
okay
fine.
with covering it,
Yeah.
so. I'll send them to the board. Did I misplaced the audit questionnaires, did I give them to you? I didn't give them to you, did I? Because
Nothing.
no, okay, they've gotta be right here, because I just had them. Okay, I'll get them to you before you.
So one other thing, just under the TA report, I just want to bring up, just for the public, the public safety building did receive an award from the Lakes Region Chamber of Commerce.
Yep.
The Business Inspiration Award for the new building. So former Selectman Carol Brown was there in the absence of Chief Arash, who could not make it, to accept the award on our behalf. So.
Great.
Anybody from the board have any questions before we proceed on?
Actually, so you sent out an email today on a training thing, either April 24th or June 5th.
Did I send you my today? Oh, I probably didn't send you today. That is the local officials workshop.
Yeah, so I sent you back an email, and Clark to me and said I couldn't send it to you for some reason, I got a return email. But bottom line is I tried to go sign myself up, except I couldn't figure out a member number, because it sort of asked me to remember.
Which one do you want to
Yeah,
attend?
Oh, thanks, buddy.
Since you're, if they're on the meeting.
You're the meeting.
Vice chair.
Exactly. That's what the vice chair does.
All right.
Keeps
The
you-
heck?
How'd you get such a cheap stamp? Can we get Don's stamp upgraded for him?
Yeah. I was the first one to ever have
I'm
one.
gonna make an electronic one of these.
Electronic pen.
All right, Christine, did you have anything else?
Just real
Planning
quick,
board figured it
your
out.
binders that are before you are not totally updated, so please don't take them home. We started updating flow charts in there. There are only, but the department heads have till the end of next week to get those to us. But everything, that will end up being pushed to your computers. We are gonna work on that, but for now, we wanted to have, you have something in place for this meeting.
So, some of those, org charts
They are,
show because it looks like, there's a couple, like water had like,
they're not updated. Water's not
Yeah,
updated yet.
find it.
because it shows like, instead of everybody reporting to one person, it shows, the way I read it is, I can't tell.
think we have it.
Chart.
John, just so you know, so we usually leave these here, but you can take it home if you
Just
want
don't
to.
take it today.
I won't.
You don't take it, there you go.
Water and sewer starts with the board of selectmen, then down to town administrator and superintendent, and then it all comes on from him.
Okay, so then all of these guys report to the superintendent.
Yeah.
So like, maybe that, no, it's like this one confused me. So everybody reports to Victor, right?
Yeah,
But this, right now, it basically reads, Richie reports to Jake, reports to Justin, right? You know what I'm saying? No relationship.
Yeah.
John, we can, that's something we can review.
Yeah, that's all right, I'm just, that's what was confusing.
She's good.
so the binders will be updated, and we are gonna move stuff to your desktop, to your
Okay.
computers. Mud season mixer is this Saturday, which, the 22nd from 7 to 10, club soda, and it's at the historic town hall. And I think the last thing that I had, budget, there was a question at this town meeting about, the budget setup, having the lines, how they show. We've checked with our software. Paul answered the question correctly. So if you show 0 in 2024 and you put $2,000 in 2025, it's gonna show 2,000% or an infinite number, so it can't show anything but 0 and
Right.
percent.
Can't
The bottom lines are correct, so of the budget. So even if I think somebody had mentioned maybe we could just change it to 100%. That would in
No.
in
No, 'cause
essence.
that's
Should be a dash or a star or something.
Right.
Yes.
So, but I can't do a dash or a star either. So the question would be if I just put a disclaimer at the bottom of the budget, is that good for you?
Yeah, leave it blank then.
Well, yeah, either, yeah, I don't know if I can eliminate it, I'd have to manually go in
Yeah,
and
just
do
put,
them all.
just put the disclaimer.
When we say because of math,
That's put out by the software, right? That's not an
Yeah.
Excel
The
sheet.
software does it as a PDF, so I would have to manually adjust the PDF.
Okay.
And I don't wanna have to do that if you.
Yeah.
But if I do a disclaimer, that's easier to manually put the disclaimer on the PDF, so.
How about we just get rid of the percentages, which I find disgusting.
you can fold.
Don't,
I hate
don't,
percentages.
so the
No.
percentages are very helpful for budget committee, but.
Percentages
do
are
we
also
have
really
to-
helpful to sort of see percentage change, right?
Percentages are always, yeah.
Do we have to put the, I mean, I think you control the format of the budget that gets put into the town report. We don't have to put the percentages in.
Can we put an asterisk over on the left in the description of the
That's
line?
what she said.
I would have to
Sorry.
manually.
She said like a disclaimer.
I would have, I'm
No,
gonna,
but put it in the line.
I'd have to manually do every one, and I don't wanna do that.
We should not find them.
No, I mean, that's something that we can tackle with a simple 3-minute explanation at town meeting. If it's
Instead, right.
The percentages is.
1 in 100 people that actually show up and ask the question, so.
I hate percentages.
All right.
Phones, transfer station phone is up and working. The only thing that's not fixed yet is the auto attendant. We're working on that next. So if somebody calls the transfer station, they're getting the transfer station. If they call the highway department, they're getting the highway department. If they dial from this building, that's gonna be fixed first. What?
Are those numbers on the website?
Yeah. They have been all along, but it just wasn't working right. So that's fixed.
Why did the auto attendant, did he say why it broke?
The auto attendant has to be updated. So I
Oh, it's
have
just-
7 new recording and the programming behind the scenes is, they're setting it up right
Okay.
now. Fire department's got all of their phones repaired, they've got their lobby phone, back up and running. We replaced it's gonna be a heavy bill, because we had to replace my phone and the HR phone, they died. And then we replaced the phone that died at Water and Sewer,
So, sorry, what happened? Lightning strike or?
No, it's just, we bought them before we moved here, these phones, and I think they're just starting to,
Okay.
yeah.
Generally, when we sell phones to customers, we tell them they've got a life really of like 5 years. But, you know, they generally last a lot longer.
Yeah.
All right,
Budget schedule you wanted to bring up.
yes. So, I know, I'm gonna rattle cages bringing this out, but I think there's been talk going both ways on this. I know there was some, I guess my thing is, I want the board to have more time to work on the budget.
So for you
Means we
to
need
do
to start
that,
earlier.
you would have to start earlier and the department heads would have to have their budgets done earlier.
Why can't we take more time to work on it? And I know the budget committee wouldn't be happy with this, but why can't the budget, I wanna go to the budget committee with a budget that they can't cut. Cause we did a great job of it this year. I think the budget committee cut
Maybe 30.
30, you know. My personal opinion, and I've said this publicly, that I feel like the budget committee is a redundant process, and that, you know, I think there should be checks and balances, but at the same time, I think it's on us to put together a responsible budget instead of just throwing stuff out there, so. I know Sean and Dawn, and not to discount you guys' opinion, but you guys have been doing this for a long time, and I'd kind of like to, kind of wonder what your thoughts are.
Can I just add a quick comment?
Yep.
So the budget committee is going to have to move they're moving their schedule up. Because we found out by RSA, they could go a little later, but it's threw off the whole town report and us being able to get it done. It put us under the wire.
Yeah.
So they are going to adjust their schedule a little bit. I don't think it's going to affect when they start, but usually you present your budget October to them.
Yeah.
At the end of October, so.
Because I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's 4 of us that have served on the budget committee here, that at one point, our budget was presented to the budget committee in late November.
Oh, yeah, that used to drive me crazy. A couple of years, the select board the budget committee was already working on it, and they didn't even have the select board's numbers.
Yeah.
Right. So, and
They were
don't.
working from the department heads, which I thought was ridiculous.
Yeah, so what, I guess what my thing is why, and I don't, the timing is terrible with the time of year.
Yeah.
But would we be better off having the budget committee tighten their schedule up rather than to give the board more time to work on it? I feel rushed the way we're doing it now.
Yeah, we always
That's
are.
interesting.
Yeah.
Because of the-
And I
Yeah,
feel
because
like.
we're only doing it in 4 weeks, that's it.
Yep. Well, it's not even, we can do it in 4 weeks, but I feel like we're doing it too soon.
You mean too early in the year?
Yeah.
So
Well,
you
we have to
I
get
you
it
said you
done.
wanted more
That's-
time.
That's
What's
the
that?
catch.
Okay.
But-
When you said you wanted more time, I figured we would start earlier.
Well, and we can, and so we're not cramming it all in at once. I'm just saying, like, I feel like we have enough time to work on it, or, almost have enough time to work on it, I
Almost,
should
yeah.
say. But I'm more concerned I feel rushed in the process that it's so early in the season.
Brought up
So-
an interesting question for these guys, because Dawn and Sean, I mean, I definitely have a couple ideas around the budget in talking to Paul, but I'd love to hear kind of what, you were saying earlier. Like, you guys have all done it, right? Like, this is outside, but.
Well, I mean, it's the most insane way to do business.
Yeah.
We
Don't get
approve,
him started.
we approve, at town meeting, we approve a budget that we're already 1/4 of the way into. And we start, and then already in August, we're starting.
Oh, hold on, so the fiscal year is calendar.
Yeah, it's not fiscal, it's calendar.
It's calendar.
These are two words for the same thing.
All right.
So that's
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying.
We are
So you're
calendar.
essentially running on a default budget for.
Right, for 2.5 months, right.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, Rob, I think however we structure the time frame, it always comes down to how much, I guess what it really comes down to is how much are we putting on our department heads to give us a responsible budget
Yeah.
versus us starting from the bottom and the budget committee has said that from time to, they want to assemble the budget, from the bottom up or line by line, and, how much time, in the end, it's our stamp, our name on it, but I think over time, we have given those department heads a little more, I don't want to say less scrutiny, but we've said, okay, come to us, and then we'll, give us your budget, we'll take a look at it and see what's reasonable, what's not reasonable, versus us developing their budget. And there's a lot of sense in that, because they know all the costs, they know
Right.
what they're working with, but there's still a balance there between, how much are we actually looking at that when that comes in, versus, okay, they're up, like you said, they're up 4%, that was great, let's go on to the next one. Knowing that, well, in the end, the budget committee is gonna have the final number that, that goes to the voters, and frankly, on a now over $9 million budget, I think $30,000 is giving them a budget that
Oh, absolutely.
they can't cut.
And I think part of what I'm suggesting is to buy the department heads a little more time too.
Yeah,
And I raised the question this year, and I'll say it out loud, because I've said it before, and I've said it as a member of the budget committee, that I felt it was a redundant process. And should we look at eliminating the budget committee? I'm not pushing for that, just for the record.
Just throwing the question out.
I threw the question out there. Do we even need a budget committee? And, I think Les made some very good points that, and at the time I was frustrated because we were having difficulty filling seats.
yeah.
And, could they even have a quorum at meetings, that sort of thing. So we've gone from a 13-member committee to a 7. I don't know if you knew that, John.
Yeah.
13 was just
Oh, it's way too
ridiculous.
many, yeah, for sure. For 3,000 person.
Yeah, so I guess I'm looking at trying to look at what's best for the town, not what's best for the select board or best for the department heads, but I feel like we could come forward with a better quality budget with more time
Yeah.
and without eliminating the budget committee. Maybe, and it's difficult because again, it's governed by RSA 32, semicolon 1.
They have
whatever it is.
their entire schedule that they have to keep.
Right,
Right.
so.
I don't, sorry, I didn't.
Pick me, I got lots of comments on this.
Mr. Carter.
Okay. Go back a little in history. The way things used to run was the selectmen thought their job was to cut the budget. The budget committee thought their job was to cut the budget. Every time the department heads went to the budget committee, they would get the question, oh, you're asking for $500, you only spent $400 last year, why isn't it $400? Okay? That was totally ludicrous, because what happened was the department heads did two things. They would add 20% to what they thought they needed, because it was gonna get twice, then they get what they wanted. And at the end of the year, so that they didn't get asked the question, they would spend out their budget.
Yeah.
Whether they needed to spend that money or not, the reason they spent it is because they didn't want to get it cut
Yeah.
even more. It took years, and actually, I'm gonna give credit to Bruce Van Derven, because he was sort of the spearhead of this whole thing, to get the department heads convinced that we will convince the budget committee not to ask that question anymore, don't spend out your budget. And also, we will convince both of these boards that they won't cut your budget. So now what happens is the way things are supposed to be done. They give realistic numbers, we look at it, and there's very little that we cut. And the budget committee looks at it, and there's not a lot that they can cut.
Yeah.
And I was asked the question about the budget committee as well. It's like, well, all we're doing is rubber stamping. It's like, no. Your job isn't to cut, your job isn't to rubber stamp. The budget committee's job is to have final oversight.
Right.
If you see things that look okay, then okay, they're okay. But if there's something wrong in there, you catch it. Same as the select board. And the process, I think Bristol's process of budgeting is done extremely well. The timeline, that's the next thing. The timeline is absolute crap. I have no other better word for it. Just like you said, we're spending 2.5 months before we even approve it. There is a solution for that. The solution is to go to a fiscal year. That gives you more time to do all this stuff with the budget and also pass the budget in May that starts on July 1st.
Yeah.
The problem with that is DRA are a bunch of lunatics. Their rules are absolutely ridiculous and illogical in my humble opinion. And one of the things I wanted to propose for our planning, goals session is to change the town over to a fiscal year, because it just makes more sense. And the other thing that with the fiscal year is everybody complains that the people, the voters that are in Florida can't vote on this stuff. Then they'll be here by May, hopefully, and they'll be able to vote on it. So what I want to do is I want to talk to DRA, and it may take actual legislation in Concord. I don't know how they come up with these stupid rules where you have to come up with 3 years of budgets just to change.
Yeah.
It's not, I'm exaggerating, it's a year and a half.
Yep.
I know. But when I look at it with the engineer's logic, I think it's ludicrous with what they require you to do. And I want that to change. So I will talk to DRA and find out what can be done, what has to be done in Concord, et cetera.
Well, so let me ask you this.
But I think the way we do things is good. If we can figure out some better timing,
Yeah.
my suggestion there would be, if you want to give the department heads a little more time, is that this board just has 2 off weeks where we don't have anything else on the agenda, whether something needs done or not, but we have 2 very long budget-only sessions.
Yeah.
Budget-only nights.
Let me ask you this, so, I definitely want to hear more about, and we talked about it a little over a year ago,
Yeah.
but is a April to April fiscal year an option?
I don't think so.
No.
It would
I
have
think
to
your
be-
choices are calendar or July 1, June
Okay.
30.
Yeah, it is, and then there's an RSA for it, I just went and looked it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
I don't want to go too far down the road.
Yeah, not too many.
I think I opened up a can of worms and
More
I opened, I take full
I started pulling them out.
So, I got a question.
No,
for
this is
Christina.
good, this is actually,
So question for Christina. I know someone in your office, I believe, had a proposal to go the other way with this, I think. Or am I,
You mean the budget schedule?
yeah,
No, well, talked about doing percentages per department, not, that was the proposal that was presented.
okay. I'm just trying to remember it, I don't,
It was talking about divvying up the budget by percent, and if you said you would only do a certain amount of increase, say it was 5%, then that
Yes.
5% would be divvied among those, by percent to each of the.
yes, okay, all
That's
right,
the
so
one.
completely different topic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then absent legislature, the only way to change it right now is to budget a year and a half roughly,
Yeah,
and to go before the voters also.
Right,
That's
that all has to be voted on.
yeah, and I'm,
But paying, the way they have set up for paying that year and a half, I think is ridiculous.
We're gonna pay more upfront.
no,
They want
I'd
you
certainly like
borrowing
to,
a year.
I'd certainly like to hear more about it, I don't know about everybody else.
So, And I just wanted to add a comment on Dawn. Dawn did say that you had 2 weeks of nothing else scheduled. We did do that. We had 2
Yes.
weeks of nothing else scheduled, but we still were rushed.
And we had work
Yeah.
sessions.
So we did 4 weeks in a row, 2 were regular meetings with an hour or so work sessions before, and then the other 2 were strictly budget
Yeah.
work sessions.
And just for the record, and anybody watching,
Yeah,
I don't want, I appreciate everything the budget committee did last year and the year before that and everything they do. I just, for me, it's a frustration in the process. It was a frustration as a budget committee member, and it was a frustration as a select board member, so, or is, I should say.
So, in the process, let's say we go down that road, do we have to run it by the voters first?
Yeah.
Yes,
Sure.
that'd probably be on the ballot, I believe.
Yeah, that's gotta go on the ballot.
it's a.
Yeah, because what, as Don was saying,
So,
you basically, so instead of, you have to come up with,
A
instead of
whole
9
entire-
million, you have to come up with 13,
Right,
13.5.
so you would have to plan, so you almost have to do 2 budgets. You have to do one in case it fails.
So
the
you're
fall,
gonna get,
And then you would have to do a proposal for changing over.
I think that's probably how it will read in the,
I would think so, yeah.
Yeah,
And then on the tax side, they're getting hit with a larger bill, but then a
Right.
smaller one,
yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's only the 6 months.
yeah, it's,
Should we put out a questionnaire like ahead of time saying,
Yeah.
before we even go through
Once
that
we
entire
have more
process?
information, I think, yeah.
yeah, let me.
Because I don't want to waste time on it if they have absolutely no intent of
Yeah,
testing.
I don't see why we couldn't, I mean, and tell me from, maybe I'm wrong, if anybody else thinks so, could we put out a poll on the department or the town website and, put it on blast on social media and put it in the paper, say if you're interested in this, go to,
We'd love your feedback.
bristolnh.gov and.
In theory, they're really not paying any extra tax.
Right.
They're just, instead of
Well,
half and half, it's
Yeah,
like 2/3 and then
Yeah.
and then a third.
But the dumb thing that the DRA makes you do is borrow the money up front
Right.
or save the money up front. It's when it's stupid, you do you do a 1.5-year budget, you still have 3 tax collections, you just take your normal tax collections.
But I think.
They have to explain,
It should be.
they have to explain to me their reasons for having to have all this money up front.
yeah,
Because I don't see it, to me, it's almost like we're gonna double tax everybody.
yeah.
And in the current rues, I would vote no for it,
Yeah,
because I think it's ludicrous.
right, so that would have.
And most people would see it the same way, I think.
Okay.
I think so too, and that's why I'd rather just.
Just go the way we are, oh yeah. But like I said,
But
I will
unless-
take on the mission to talk to DRA.
Could you, I mean, not that I'd want to, but would we want, is there another approach in taking a TAN for that offset?
Well, it's basically what you have to,
It's basically what it is.
Yeah.
No, but instead of having the tax, well, either way. they're-
TAN, if
Now,
you're
they're-
literally taking a TAN.
Their rules say you shall do this.
You have, and you have to charge
And
them.
I don't know if it's rules or RSA,
right.
but, and so changing it is either gonna be talking to the legislature or talking to the governor.
So, but
And
here's the
I'm
deal,
willing to
right?
do both.
So think about, I'm listening to all this and what keeps running through my head is, what's the ultimate goal of better time to deal with this? It's, as you said, it's not necessarily about the select board or the budget committee or anybody like that. It's more about having more time to be able to thoughtfully review, give everybody the chance to kind of go through it. The community is very clear on this when you look at the community surveys. Top thing that everybody asks for, they want taxes to go down. Taxes are a function of the taxes you pay or our business community, right? Like, it's really gonna be a function that way. So if we're trying to do this where we're addressing, are there ways for us to look to be more efficient? Then that's what we have to then argue to the community, to go, hey, we're trying to develop time to be more efficient, because ultimately the goal is, we're trying to figure out how we're able to maximize and manage this in an incredibly efficient manner. Because today's timeframes don't meet that. Today's timeframes actually give error, right? They give cause for error because you've got whether it's the budget committee who's trying to figure out how to take a bite out of it, you know, the select board's trying to figure out how to take a bite out of it, and satisfy what the community is looking for. So I think if we tie that, as you look at it, I think if we tie that to, here's how we're trying to figure out ways to ultimately make it a positive change for Bristol, then I think they'll listen.
Oh, yeah.
But we gotta tie it to that, is I guess what I'm saying.
All right, well, let's.
No matter what, we still have to put up with the current schedule for at least 2 more years. So.
Let's look into it and leave it at that.
Yep.
So that said, select board items, start with Scott.
I think, I think it would be a good idea for us to do a site visit to the safety building. Now that it's up and running, everything's pretty much in and complete and settled in, just to see the day-to-day operations, what the finished product is, because we haven't seen the finished product of what the departments have done in their spaces and stuff. And then I encourage you, if you haven't been into the community center, to check out their almost final. I know there's still some stuff. It's a big difference there. And then, did we decide, are we gonna have set our priorities? Did we
Yeah.
discuss that already?
Planning session?
Planning session, right?
Yeah.
That's part of the planning, right?
Next week, yeah.
Next
The
week,
next
okay.
meeting, sorry.
Next meeting?
Okay. Because I have some thoughts on that too, I got some feedback, so.
Yeah. I won't even be able to zoom in for that. So it'll be 30,000 feet in the air.
No, that's,
Write up what you want.
What's that?
Write up what you want.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything crazy. I think I might talk to you guys individually ahead of time and just bounce some stuff around, but.
That works.
Yeah, okay. As far as what you were saying about touring the building, it might be difficult to get us all together at the same time.
Well, what we've done in the past is just started on a normal meeting.
Or, yeah, we
half
could do
hour
an early
early.
night, like a light meeting night where we could go there at 5 and be here at 5:30 or something.
Do you want to do that in your second April meeting?
Sure.
And would both chiefs be available, or is that too much to ask, or?
We started.
That's gotta be tough.
Okay.
And the only reason I say so is because I know they both have things going on after hours.
Yeah.
Baseball starting up and,
4:30.
Or at least one of the upper,
yeah, have them have a
Upper
representative, yeah. That can answer questions.
yeah, that's my thought. Full access.
Don?
Welcome, John. Welcome back, Sean.
Yeah.
I think I've already said enough. Otherwise,
John, do you?
So I guess just a procedural question.
Yep.
So when you talk about the planning meeting that we're gonna have, because I'm thinking about some of the things that I came to talk to the board about when I was on the planning board around like short-term rentals and stuff. So is that the meeting that we'll start to figure out how we're gonna dig into some of that stuff?
That's
Yeah.
on the list too.
Okay, because that one, I mean, again, if we go back to sort of the budgetary conversation for a second, right? And you look at what the residents have been talking about, like that is an opportunity for us to really kind of dig into it. And it impacts, like that impacts budget, that impacts economic development, that impacts the planning process. Like it's all of those, like anyway, so it's all getting kind of, all that gets a little messy. Is why. So in my head, I'm trying to figure out how to sort that stuff out. But if we're gonna do that, then that's great.
Okay.
The only other question I have when I think about like the budget thing, the thing that popped into my head, have we ever done a zero-based budget with everybody? Meaning you basically ask everybody to, because when you say, hey, how much can you, they come and do their presentations. Do they start at ground zero and say, these are all the pieces? Because the things that I think about are like the technology spends. I think there's technology spend in a lot of different areas that sometimes it's represented differently. Like in my head, I'm trying to figure out how we make sure we understand where all of the technology money is being spent. Again, that one also gets a little messy too, because, we don't really have an IT department, but we do through the contractors that we use, right? So, So I don't know how we wanna try to tackle any of that stuff. Because again, I'm looking at it like, okay, well, if we can be more efficient in these areas, does that help us drain that back some?
Yeah.
So, anyway, so, that's it, I'm good. I'll cause trouble next time.
I had a whole list, and you've pretty much knocked off a bunch of them in terms of things we've talked about tonight, or putting on the agenda for the planning sessions. I'm gonna continue to harp on, and I'll probably make people sick, but I'm gonna continue to harp on the fact that, you know, we will be starting a complete townwide reval. And we need to get ahead of that as a community and to get that information out to folks.
Yep.
All along the process.
Yeah, make people understand how that
Yep.
affects their
Yeah,
taxes.
that just
I think
means,
is what
right,
we're getting at.
right, just because the valuation is going to go up, it does
Yeah.
not necessarily mean their taxes are going up.
Sean, when you say like share stuff with people, do you have a particular medium in mind? Like, how are you thinking about how we should, well, I mean, you know.
No, just however we get all of our information.
Oh, just that we need to do it, not
Yeah.
a particular, because in my head, I'm also thinking about, you know, we're on video tonight, right? Like how do we more proactively
Right.
record short 5-minute clip? Okay.
I think, I was just gonna say, I think that, those have been great, we've done them for a few things, particularly in the
Yeah.
past few months. That'd be a good Q&A with, you know, have somebody like Kate or Bruce or whoever
Whatever.
conduct the interview,
Yeah,
ask a
sure.
few questions, whether it be
Yeah,
with
all
Christina or one of us, or,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, I think that, you know, because, you know, a lot of people have no clue how that
Yeah.
process works.
I've been watching other communities on Facebook go through it, and, you know, and not knowing what those towns have done to get information out. And oftentimes it's just, oh, we're going through a reval, here's your letter.
Yep.
And all you see is former valuation, new valuation.
And then they start multiplying that by the current
By
tax
the-
rate. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly, and so, you know, they're all the way, I look at these, they're all the way through the process, and then everybody is up in arms about their new tax bill. No, it's your new assessment,
Right.
You know, it's not, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna harp on that throughout the whole process, to try to.
Yeah, I think like a Q&A video posted on,
Yep.
on YouTube and the town website and
Yeah,
shared wherever.
I've already talked to Joanne since the last meeting.
Okay.
She is on vacation right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
So she did post the information the first round, and she's coming up with a advertising plan. So,
Okay, great.
yeah.
So here's a question for everybody. Is it reasonable for us to, right now we're talking about revals, but you could easily hit other topics by the other departments.
Absolutely.
You know, do we do it in a way where we're asking the departments to just sort of do their own recording of something? Like, you know, to me, this becomes a little bit of the more the merrier, and the reason I say it that way is, sometimes getting over the people a little stage fright, right, because they're worried about the camera, so to speak.
Yeah. I think,
But it gets everybody going into it.
But I think you gotta have a constant on those, I think you gotta have somebody to
Okay.
bring them out of their, you know, their shell to.
Yes,
Yeah.
Cade, Bruce, whatever, yeah,
Yep.
I get it,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
yeah, and it's, and I think we kind of want to try and maintain the same format too. Like, I know,
Yeah.
I mean, there's individual departments that have their own, you know, social media pages. They do a good job of putting some information out.
Yeah.
You don't see many videos necessarily, but, you know, there have been some on there of like, I can remember there was one during COVID of Jason Rivera, who's no longer a member of the department, but reading a book on the bumper of the engine to the kids, or people love that. They, you know, people love seeing stuff like that. So, you know, I think that's good community interaction, as much as I'm a
I mean, the thing is, again, when you look at our community, you know, there's the 3,000 year-round residents, but we still have a ballooning effect of a whole bunch of folks that aren't here
Right.
all the time, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of why, as we do different things, this topic's the
Yeah.
reval.
Yeah.
To me, it's more about engaging,
Yeah.
particularly in video,
Yeah.
trying to get stuff.
Well, absolutely, let's remember that I mean, I don't know what the exact number, but I know last time we looked at, the majority of our tax bills go out of town.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have that list.
We didn't read that.
So Sean volunteered to do the video.
Happy, yeah, I'm happy to
I
help
think you'd be a
in
good one to do it, actually.
whatever way, because I think,
Yeah.
you know, it could be a huge stumbling block, or, I mean, it's not gonna be fun regardless, but we can make it as easy as possible
Yeah.
and with as little, with as much information as possible. Yeah.
Anything else?
That's all I
Okay. I don't
got.
really.
Glad to be back.
I kind of echo what Don said, welcome John and Sean and Sean, Don.
Do we,
You're surrounded, Rob.
do we want to take a board picture, like, to put on the website?
I was hoping you were gonna say, do we want to come up with like 2 nicknames, so.
Yeah. Well, I'll probably tell the AI to do that. Here, take these and smush them.
We can do that.
I just want to thank everybody that came out and voted,
Yeah.
and particularly, I know I said it at town meeting, but to thank the volunteers on voting day. And that's all I have, so, but yes, Sean, if you want to.
Whatever they
Here we
want.
go. Scott, if you want to.
Hey, tell them to have a Coke and a smile, will
Before
you?
you go, I just wanna, one thing, the MS 232, which is the report of appropriations from town meeting, that won't be ready probably until next week. Whoever's here, whoever's in town can stop by and sign once I email you. I have to have it in within 20 days after town meeting,
Okay.
so.
Did we sign off on the LT promotion?
The what?
Lieutenant promotion?
Oh, that was signed off on weeks
We already
ago.
did, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you did announce the new hires?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any public comment, Kate? Yeah,
How about a motion to adjourn?
I'll take one of those.
Wait a
Second.
minute, was there something else to go into non-public?
No, we covered it.
We covered it? Okay.
Yeah, so, motion by Sean, second by Don, to adjourn, all those in favor?
Aye.
It's non-discussable, right?
Yes.